Perfect. So we are live and ready to go. And thank you everyone for joining us here today. My name is Carrie Lee Auger. I am the Skills Development Officer here in the Kelowna office of Women's Enterprise Centre. In my role, I develop and deliver all of our training and mentoring programs out of the Kelowna office, but we do serve every community in the province of British Columbia. So Women's Enterprise Centre, our passion is to empower women entrepreneurs to their business success, and we do that by providing a host of services to our clients. We offer business loans of up to $150,000. We have free business advisory services and many resources to complement that service as well. We do the business skills training through webinars such as this. We also do live workshop training, working with service partners such as Chamber of Commerce across the province. And we also have a supportive community, including our mentoring programs. And joining me today is James Grief, who is one of our few male mentors in the program now, so we're excited to have him as well. So before we get started, just an overview for those of you that are joining us today in the webinar format. We will have some slides to show you, and we're going to ask you to participate as well in asking your questions through either the chat or the Q&A section on the webinar. So if you can't see those, in the upper right hand of your screen, you'll see buttons that you can click for chat and Q&A. So if you click those and then can see the chat window, the last thing you should see is me correcting the phone number that I typed in for the call-in session as well. And as we move forward today, I'm pleased to welcome, as I mentioned, James Grieve of Nucleus Strategies. He's here in Kelowna, and he's one of our new WEC volunteer mentors, and I'm going to pass it over to him now to do a brief introduction, and then we will move into our topic today of customer experience.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for sharing your time with me today and to learn more about customer experience. This is a topic that's near and dear to, I think, all of us, and we've all experienced customer service, good and bad, throughout our lives, and hopefully by the end of today you'll understand the importance of it for business, big and small, and how getting your head around customer service and customer experience will have a significant benefit to your business. As Carrie Lee mentioned, my company is Nucleus Strategies, and we specialize in customer experience design. And we work with a variety of industries: manufacturing, retail, hospitality, tourism, and professional services, with our sweet spot being working with small to medium-sized businesses to provide them with the tools they need to create some significant competitive advantages. So without any further ado, I'll get us started on the presentation. I'd be happy to hear your questions after we get going here. I'm going to start everybody off today with a parable, and you may have heard of this parable before. It's the 6 blind people and an elephant. And if you haven't heard it before, I'll share it with you. And the parable goes like this. So there was a village in India, and an elephant walks into the village, and it was encountered by 6 blind people. And these people all see this or feel this object come in, and they're seeing it at different points. So the people at the front of the elephant, as you can see, they're with a tusk. They think it's a spear. Those at the leg think it's a tree. At the side think it's a wall. Top fan, back is the tail is a rope, and so forth. And the thing is that they all think they have a common understanding of what this elephant is, but in reality they don't know what it is. But because they have mental models of where they're at, they all see things differently. And we use this because the elephant is the customer, and each of these blind people here are representative of different verticals or departments in an organization. So for example, if we're to look at this, and the person at the front who's seeing it as a spear, let's say, is in marketing, and they only see the customer problem from a marketing perspective, and the person at the side might be in human resources, and the top might be in accounting, for example. And although they think they have a common understanding of the customer, they don't. And what is needed is to have an opportunity to see that for what it is, take the blindfold off, and see that actually the customer is the elephant. So what customer experience design does is it consistently delivers memorable experiences that attract and retain customers by allowing you to see things from your customer's perspective. So it's an elephant, and we're going to teach you today how to or hopefully share with you today, about how to attack this elephant one bite at a time so you can really please and satisfy them for the benefit of your business. So when we look at customer experience, so what is it? And it's a big, broad question, and we've distilled it into 5 dimensions. So at the heart of this is empathy, and that's the one you see at the very bottom here. And what empathy is understanding your customer's needs, and the heartfelt side of what a customer experiences, and addressing the expectations for the customer, not only for the service they're receiving, but the providers that are doing it. It's the heart of your business, understanding what those customers are looking for. Next are touch points, and many of you are familiar with touch points. And an example of this is making a transactional purchase at a retail store. So it's a point of customer interaction, and it's isolated in a sense, and that's what we'd refer to as customer service. And I think that's where customer service typically ends in most cases, is at the touch point, but there's far more to it than that in an organization. Next is pathways, and these are the transitions between touch points. So your touch points can be great, but if they don't have specific next steps on what to do after you've had that initial check-in with the company. For example, we work with a car wash that has multiple locations, and you purchase your car wash, but if there's not the proper wayfinding system in place to tell you where to go next, that pathway is broken. So I encourage you to think of this as a 4x1 relay race, where the sprinters are passing the baton between one another, and if those pathways are broken, the baton is dropped and the race is lost. And it also should be very smooth, knowing that there's 4 people running the race, 100 meters to be ran, 100 meters each, 400 meters to be ran, 100 meters each, and they know what they're up to and when to pass the baton, and not make it a complicated steeplechase with a bunch of hurdles in there. Next, if we look at the right side of the screen, is the delivery. And what this is, the coordination between the front stage actions, this is the customer-facing touch points, and the backstage non-customer-facing processes. So what these are, a company that does this really well is Starbucks, and we'll talk about them later in the presentation. But what they've done is the things that you see in store, which seem to be delivered very seamlessly, there's been a lot of work done in the background that is the iceberg is beneath the water. The tip of the iceberg is done very well, but the biggest games are won in practice, and they've done a really good job in ensuring that coordination in the science of the discovery and the art of the delivery. And finally, is the ecosystem. It's the overall, and this is where culture would come in. So this is where customer experience overlaps human resources in a sense, is that it's developing a consistent way of delivering an experience that the people and system in the organization provide that experience, so the customer can be assured that when they come to an organization, they're going to have a consistent and memorable experience every time. So to bring this point home here, the reason that customer experience, and quite frankly the reason why it's so important, and for my organization to work with other companies like yours, is most organizations think they're doing a great job of delivering customer experience, but actually they're not. And this is a performance gap. So on the left, you see that 80% of companies believe they're giving a great experience, when only 8% of their customers actually agree. So this is a 72% gap, and companies that can close this gap between customer expectations and what's actually being delivered is where you will win in the marketplace. Okay. And a major reason for this gap is due to the fact that companies spend far more time and money on advertising their brand than focusing on the customer experience. It's interesting, we'll talk about marketing, and I don't want to pick on marketing agencies, but the traditional way of doing this is you focus on the shiny things, which is your brand and a logo and that type of thing, when in reality you should be focusing on your customers. So it's a vanity metric with advertising and that type of thing. It is absolutely necessary to get that awareness out there, but if you're not taking care of the customer, or there's a disconnect, as we saw in the last slide, it's a big problem. So if you look at the numbers here, it's a 20-to-1 ratio of the money spent on advertising versus customer experience. And a good example of this is Super Bowl commercials going for a couple $1 million a minute and that type of thing, whereas the reality of training employees to deliver a good customer experience or engaging customers to see what they really want is often neglected. So once the ad is finished, what happens next? So the reason this happens, we're an emphasis on advertising and, like I said, those vanity metrics happen is a result of most organizations being structured and operating contrary to customer expectations. So the customer is often neglected a lot of the times, and a lot of these initiatives and campaigns in companies are not seen from the customer's perspective. So if we look on the left side of this slide, typical organizational structure, and this bears true if you're working and you're in a sole proprietorship or even a partnership, this rings true as well. It doesn't have to just be a large organization. I can't stress that enough. But think of it in your mindset. If you're not a big organization, just think of the mindset for this case. So you're tiered and you're thinking in certain silos throughout the day. I've got my operations hat on, my marketing hat, my sales hat, and you just naturally gravitate to those silos. In big companies, it's not natural. It's the way they're actually structured. But in reality, in the middle of this slide, what customers experience in their company, they don't deal with particular and specific departments. They deal with their exact experience. So they're coming in at multiple touch points. And the icons that are here, you can see they can be interacting with your company online, in store, on their phones, and that type of thing. And the ultimate, what they want and expect is one point of contact that's has limited effort. They want an effortless experience with your company. A good example of this is the airlines, and I hate to pick on them, but this is a ad for United. On the left is a lot of money was spent on an ad campaign for them, saying how great and flyer friendly. Of course, this deck was prepared before they were dragging people down the aisle, so just if you could forgive that for a moment. So what they're saying, it's a great experience. They're flyer friendly. They have these great print ads. They invest in putting their names on arenas and that type of thing. But all that means nothing to the customer when you're standing there because your flight's been delayed or you've been bumped. So the audio doesn't match the video, if you will, because the advertising rarely matches the experience. Now, to put some numbers on this and why it's important for your business, in today's economy, customer experience is now a main differentiator. So on the left, 81% of consumers are willing to pay more for a better customer experience. Now, this doesn't mean a better product. It means apples to apples products. If they have a better experience, they're 81% more willing to pay for a good experience. And this is very important for small business owners out there, that if you nail the customer experience, you're going to have strong referrals and you can actually charge a premium price. You don't have to get into the death knell of discounting to think you can compete. You can maintain your prices, or in some cases maybe even increase them, just by doing the right things to provide a great customer experience. And on the right here, it shows that 66% of consumers who switched brands did so because of poor experience, not because of the product. Again, if the products are apples to apples and you had a bad experience, you're going to defect of that because it didn't meet your expectations. And for all of us, our time and money are valuable. So we have the right to choose that, and I'm sure we all had experience. I'd love to hear them at the end of this presentation where you've had a bad customer experience and what you've done about that. So keep that in mind as we go along here. So the main point of this is that how people buy your products and services is now at least as important as the why. So as products become more and more commoditized, the real differentiator here is how that customer's effort in buying it is portrayed, and the things that you do behind the scenes to make it easy for people to buy, and more importantly to come back and recommend to their friends, is important as why they bought the product in the first place. So I mentioned Starbucks earlier. This slide is hard to read, but the point is not reading every line item here, but what it shows you in this is it doesn't matter what you sell. You don't have to be Cirque du Soleil, and selling a complete customer experience that's out of this world and colorful. If you could sell a cup of coffee or whatever product you sell, it's a huge advantage. And this is an actual map of Starbucks of what they do behind the scenes is below the horizontal dark line in the middle to deliver those roughly 19 points above the line. That's all the work that goes into it behind the scenes to deliver that. So you know that regardless if you're in Nanaimo or Kelowna or Vancouver, Calgary, Hong Kong, Beijing, wherever you are, you go into Starbucks and you're going to get a great experience when you buy Starbucks coffee. This important stat here is that focusing on your customer experience is smart and a sustainable business practice. It's a strategic imperative now, and I strongly believe that customer experience has a seat at the table along with human resources, marketing, operations. It's emerging and it's important because increasing customer retention rates, meaning getting people to come back, even if 5% of your customers come back, it'll increase your profits by 25 to 95%. And 5% is a great number, but I would contend that it's a relatively low number if you're doing things properly. And if you could double your profits by doing that, I think it's something that would perk everybody's ears and get them interested. So you might recognize a few of the companies that have begun to implement customer experience design throughout their organization. And one of the key ones I'll choose from the top line here is Airbnb. Now, I don't know how many people have stayed with Airbnb or used Airbnb services, but it's a fantastic experience. And the reason that it is that way is they invested a lot of time and energy in user experience and customer experience design. And they actually employed the Pixar storyboarding that Pixar uses for its cartoons and its stories to draw out and to find personas of their customers, what they'd be going through, and to deliver an experience that's unlike what you would have in a hotel, which is mainly transactional. I mean, there's great hotels, as you can see, Holiday Inn is on here as well. But what they've done is saying, okay, you're going to stay in neighborhoods. Here's what you can expect before you come. They communicate with you. There's a book when you arrive at the residence that tells you what to do in the neighborhood, and they've mapped out these experiences and defined pain points along the way. But the key point here that I like to make, and that's, we make to our clients, is customer experience design is not just suited for Disney and Nike and those companies. In fact, it's a key element that helps small to medium-sized businesses compete in any market. And I do a lot of work with economic development in small communities in BC. And one of the fears is that, Walmart is coming into Salmon Arm, Walmart is coming into Vernon, or that you name the community. What are we going to do to compete? Well, you're not going to compete on price, and you're not going to compete on supply chain. But if you provide a better customer experience, you're going to create loyalty in that marketplace. So, don't always view them as something bad coming in. They're actually an opportunity for your business, because if you have the right experience in place, it's really a strong differentiator, and you can flip that who's big and who's small pretty quickly from there. And the bottom line is that customer experience design benefits everyone. It just doesn't improve the customer experience for your customers, the people buying products. It also improves the coordination between departments and creates de facto improved morale, which allows people to enjoy where they work and provide a better service, because it's effortless for the people providing the service as well as receiving it. So if you look at this slide, all those messy lines coming into it after you have some great customer experience design and collaborate with your team, things will smooth out, and you'll find out you could do more with less. Meaning, I'm not talking about cutting employees. I'm talking about serving more customers more effectively with the same amount of employees, or growing your employees so that you can meet the demands of your expanded customer base. So in practice, customer experience design is an iterative process. It's a suite of methods and tools applied across three main phases. So the first stage is understanding, and that's critical, is understanding who your customers are and understanding their personas, what they do, how they feel, from through a daily basis. We'll talk about that in a moment, about journey mapping, but the persona of your customer is very important. And this doesn't have to be a complicated exercise. It could be distilled into who, what, when, where, why, and how. For example, a manufacturer we're working with, before they viewed themselves as providing a product, which commoditized what they were selling. They manufactured, and they had a retail operation, and they have retail operations, value-added retailers across the country. But at the end of the day, it's not the product they're selling, it's the experience they're selling and who they're selling it to. So you have to understand who's buying your products, what they can afford, what their day looks like, and that influences how you sell and how you position your product out there. The next stage here on the bottom is exploring, and what that is after you understand what your customers' needs are and the pains that you're alleviating and the gains that you're going to provide for them and the job to be done, which is important. If any of you are familiar with value proposition design, and I'd love to share that with you either now, or if you have any questions after, you can contact me. It's the product market fit. So what is your product offer and how are you going to fit in there? And the only way you do that is to understand the customer, and then you explore low fidelity prototypes to deliver that. You don't jump in with both feet and have a ready, fire, aim approach. You look at the things that are causing you pain within your organization or pain for your customers, and then you slowly chip away at them with low fidelity prototypes that can help them, and then you cement that in place. The next step is materializing. So materializing, what that is when you understand the customer, you develop these prototypes and test them, and then you materialize. You don't just jump directly to materializing, which is what a lot of the previous way of doing that has been, where you jump right to materializing. And that's typically what marketing agencies do. Now, I'm not beating up on marketing agencies, but I caution you, if you're starting a business or looking to allocate your precious resources and money, if someone's selling you a new logo or a new brand without asking you the questions of who your customers are and what they do and how they buy from you, I'd be very careful, because that's going to cost you a lot of time and money, and you may not be shooting for the right target. So you have to prototype those ideas and understand the customers. So in the understanding phase of the clients, it's where you identify the problem that needs to be solved, so the job to be done. And this allows you to work with and identify areas of opportunity for improvement to create a new service experience. And again, this isn't done in isolation. You have to involve your customers in this. So some primary research with your customers, get out of the building, talk to your customers, find out what they want, engage your staff. Because when this is developed and implemented with your staff and your customers in mind, everybody feels like they own it, not just something that's a new brochure that's arrived from the printers and this is what we're doing today. So everybody's involved in that. So it's typically a 3-step process in understanding. So the first step is an initial research of understanding who your customers are, and that's, I think, where you would definitely start, is understanding the persona of your customers, what they do, who they are, as I mentioned earlier. And then second, to be a blueprint or a journey map, which I'll get to right away. And then you analyze the information you have from there and develop next steps, so you can go to designing those prototypes before you materialize. And again, I have to stress, this isn't a long process. From start to finish, you can go through your persona, your blueprinting, and then start exploring and getting those prototypes in place within 2 to 3 weeks before you implement. But that time invested in practice is going to win you a lot of big games. Okay, so the main delivery for an understanding phase is a service blueprint or a journey map. They're 2 separate things. So the blueprint connects each customer action to the business process, technology, and people in your organization that enable the experience. It's tough to read this slide here, but essentially on the left, as you go down vertically, you would identify in each of these swim lanes a backstage action, a front stage action, the technology that's involved, the emotions that are involved, opportunities, and then pain points, and then literally get granular. We do this exercise with sticky notes. We do a good job of keeping Sharpies and 3M in business. And if you have a look at the next, this is typically kind of what it looks like. And if you're doing this on your own, which you can, to map it out, don't be afraid to be too granular with it and say, okay, first stage is we want to deal with when the customer walks in the door. Write down on the sticky note, customer walks in door. What happens next, and who are they talking to? And then it goes down those swim lanes. How are they feeling at the moment? And you'll start to see on the top line, if it bogs, there's a lot of actions there and not much is being done to help them, it bogs down. So the blueprint is a specific snapshot. An example of this, we had a manufacturing client here, and they wanted to see what their process looked like from the time the customer came in the door or phoned to the time an order was created and then processed. And what we found out, they thought they were doing a great job. Their customers seemed to be coming back. Their revenue was growing. But we discovered that they had 18 touch points and 18 pieces of paper that had to be touched and filed and processed to get an order out the door. And after working on this, we found that we could distill that down to 3, and we took their lead time in procurement from 2 weeks down to 8 days. And as a result, they increased their throughput by 30%, and they're actually able to serve people more effectively. So, and one of the key findings of this, in having the receptionist in the room when she was speaking with us, is that people were bringing in handwritten messages to her, and we standardized the message pad with check boxes on it, and that allowed those messages to get off her desk rapidly, which allowed things to get into production quickly. So I'm not talking innovation here that requires tremendous investment in technology. It's pretty low fidelity, and you have these aha moments, which are pretty sweet, and people feel like they own the entire process. So next we move on to journey maps, and what journey maps are, they're a visualization of the process that a person goes through in order to accomplish a goal. Now the reason these slides and the graphics are small on here, and you have to appreciate, is that when we do this for our clients, we take up probably 12 to 18 feet on a wall with brown butcher paper, and we map these out, and to condense that all into one slide is very difficult. But what a journey map does, understands the customer's needs and pain points when you're identifying a new product or offering for your business. And some of them, it starts when the customer wakes up in the morning. So what do they do from the time they wake up? Who are they contacting first? Where are they going online? All those things, because where they do before they come to your business is just as important as what they do when they get there. You want to make sure that you've reached them on Facebook or Instagram, or they're ready to buy by the time they come to your business. So to wrap things up here, and I look forward to opening the floor here, customer experience design has many benefits for various industries, and some more than others. So first, it consistently delivers memorable experiences. And you'll see the underpinning here is consistency. It's in every line here. It consistently saves time and money because you're doing more with less. And it allows you to maximize your resources, which is particularly important for small business. And it builds a culture of innovation. Again, innovation doesn't always mean having the newest and latest and greatest app. It might be for your business. It may not be. But it's being innovative in how you serve your customer. And it consistently creates distinction from your competition. And it helps you attract and retain customers, which is ideally what, at the end of the day, what you want to achieve here. So that concludes the formal part of the presentation. I'd love to answer any questions anybody has and hear your experiences you had with the company or companies on good or bad customer experience. And we'll open the floor up now to questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, James. So for those of you that are on the phone, you can do *6 or use your mute button if you're on a mobile phone to pipe in and ask your questions. We also have the chat window and the Q&A section on the WebEx platform as well, so you can use either of those. And I'm just going to see here. I think we're good. Sound is on. So I'm going to start with a question for you, James. Maybe you can go over and explain to everyone the difference between customer service and customer experience, because sometimes we hear those terms maybe interchanged, and that could be a mistake. So Absolutely. Maybe touch on that.
That's a great question. And the difference between customer service and customer experience, I believe, is that a customer service is, in a sense, a touch point you have one-off. As I mentioned, with a retail location where they come in and they're smiling and they're friendly, and in that moment at the touch point, it's great. But a customer experience is, again, delivering things consistently and ensuring that all departments within an organization are coordinated to deliver that consistently, and also to ensure that the customer's experience, whether they do visit your company online, on Instagram, all these things are interconnected so that that moment of truth when they come into the business is delivered properly. So the customer service side of it is an isolated incident in time, where the customer experience is something that's built over time and ensures all of the pathways in that ecosystem are delivered effectively.
Okay, great. And for people that this is new to them and they want to, get started and implement a customer experience program in their business, where do they start? What is the the first kind of key things for them to think about as they map out their customer experience journey?
The key thing here, it's a good question. The key thing is to start with the empathy. So understanding your customer's needs and your employees' needs. If you're a sole proprietor, what are your needs as far as what do you want the character of your company to be? And what do you want to be remembered by? And understanding the heart of the issue is understanding the customer's needs. I think we've all been to businesses before where we just feel like we're left to our own devices when we walk in. And even though we part with our money, after we left, we don't feel like it's been a great experience coming in there because you don't feel like anybody really cared about you. So the heart of this is to start with those personas. And as I mentioned, it's kind of a who, what, when, where, why about your customers, and knowing how they act, behave, what range of emotions they have, and then start looking at their day. But it all starts with, how old they are, how educated they are, Do they shop in pairs? Do they shop individually? How often do they come? That type. You're almost creating a story and a bio for each of your customers. And it may seem tedious, but it's completely necessary.
Yeah. This ties into, on Monday, we had a focused marketing workshop that we did, and it's all about who is your ideal customer, because those 20% of customers can lead to 80% of your revenues. So defining this all fits into that. And then yesterday was on the power of one. So how networking can be beneficial to your company, one more phone call, one more activity. And again, it's knowing who your customer is. That's really the heart of your business. So maybe, I'm just looking at our Q&A now. So I'm going to defer to a question here that's coming on the screen. It says, in an industry like counseling, and I would, perhaps consulting with your a service provider, how do you distinguish yourself?
Okay, that's a really good question. We work with professional services firms that deliver a lot of different types of services, law firms, that type of thing, which in the minds of the consumer, they may perceive themselves, or the consumer at that point perceives it to be a Me Too industry. They come in, they have to get their taxes done. It's not a great experience, anywhere they go. It's just something that has to be done. But I think a lot of it, if you're counseling, it's information before the fact. I mean, getting the word out there on what you do, and then once people come in to see you, it's constant. I don't know enough about your business, obviously, but if you want to be the company or the counselor that has a process in place for communicating with that person, provides them with a takeaway, perhaps engages with them to understand, what their needs are. Perhaps people can't always come in between your normal business hours to counsel with you. So a good customer experience would be enable them to come in at the hours they want. Perhaps it's a more comfortable environment that they can work in to counsel with them, and to get these standard workflows in place so that they feel like they want to come back to your business. If I didn't answer your question, I'm glad to expand on it. So let me know if there's any other particular part that you want me to expand upon there.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking about that service business. A lot of our clients and the entrepreneurs that we deal with are a service business. So, a lot of times they are doing it, me, myself, and I am my business. But it's important for you to as well go through this process. And if you find that target customer, target client, and have this experience to go along with it, it's easier to find those new clients because you know exactly who you're going out and looking for. So it's all in that, leading to business growth.
Yeah, and one thing also for the counseling question that's out there is that, we have a consulting firm, and one thing that we don't want to position ourselves is be the know-it-alls out there. And I'm not suggesting that that's what you do, but I think a lot of people are reluctant when they come into a professional services firm, as they think, oh, it's a little bit intimidating. But if you put things in the customer's frame of reference to make them feel welcome and provide them with information, thought leadership, that we've dealt with people like you in the past, and here's their 3 pain points or situations, our clients typically tell us this, it puts people at ease. And perhaps if you can, send information out to them or make them feel like it's a comfortable experience for them, so they don't feel like they should feel guilty coming to a counselor or anything like that, it's important.
Okay. And I'm going to open it up for a moment. Is there anybody on the phone that would like to ask a question? Nope. Okay, great. We've got another question here. How do you suggest dealing with a customer who always complains or they're grumpy when they come into the retail store, yet continue to return in spite of this? We try our best to be helpful and cheerful with them.
Okay, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I think that, to me, this might be a symptom of a bigger problem. So it'd be interesting, to ask that person to say, you know what, we're thinking of improving things around here. We really value your loyal customer, obviously. What do you think you could do to help us get better? And that's where it engages the customer to be a part of the solution here. And I'm not suggesting you bend and flex in the wind here to every customer, but if you do have someone who's like that, you turn that adversary into an advocate pretty quickly, and they go home and they say, wow, they asked me for my opinion. It doesn't have to be a formal focus group. Just ask them for what they think. We're thinking of doing things. We always want to get better. How do you think we could do things better around here? And what would you like to see? And you'd be amazed how that grumpy person just wants to be talked to. And because the thing is, when they get to your store and they're grumpy, this could be a result of the 3 other businesses they've been to that day or this month
true.
that have provided a bad experience. So you're just feeling the brunt of this. So involve them with it and be the one company that provides them with a good experience and is different.
Yeah. So that leads me to ask the other question. We've talked about customer experience, obviously.
Yeah.
A little bit on customer service.
Yes.
But then we also have to tie in customer satisfaction. So that becomes a big
Yes.
piece of that. And what's a good way, especially first of all, in this retail space. So if you are, selling to consumers directly, or in perhaps a B2B environment where you provide a service to another business, how does that tie into creating this customer experience?
Well, that's a really good question. It's really important to understand what your customers value. So it all kind of gets back to that start of what they value, and then tie those metrics of what your customer values when you have, your customer satisfaction surveys, and how well they would promote you. It's not. It's fine to ask your customers, would you recommend us? There's things like the Net Promoter Score that are very important here. Is what's their likelihood of recommending you? Because the one customer you have in front of you is an amplifier to others. So if you're providing that great experience, find other ways or make it easy for them to do that. So after they purchase, if you were to send them an email, for example, with a click to a link, they can share that rapidly. And don't always rely on them to tell their friends exactly how that experience happened that day. It's important, but if you provide them with some mechanism where they can share on Instagram, social media is your friend, and it's a great amplifier. Or gather the emails from your customers. You can use it to also provide them with promotional material, but it's also a great chance to say, how do we do today, and recommend us to your, is there anybody that we could recommend, you would recommend to us?
Okay, we have another question coming in here. Where do you think implementing a secret shopper program fits in with, she said, customer service design? And do you know of any good secret shopper programs in Vancouver? So how would that fit into determining the needs and the profile of your customer, and how that impacts the staff and how they are interacting with the customer?
That's a really good question, and I think, in my opinion, thanks.
Yes, you just corrected it. Customer experience design. Yeah. See, those terms get interchanged.
Perfect.
They do.
Perfect. I think that it's a good idea to include that, but I would caution to have a Frankenstein approach where you just bolt that on to what you're doing right now without explaining to your employees why you're doing it and what you're anchoring it to. So it's good to know what your customers are thinking, but if it's seen as a tactic to punish people, because that's the way employees will see it. They'll see it as a way, they could see it, as a way like, someone's going to come in here, and we're always on guard for the wrong reasons. They shouldn't be looking for the mystery shopper. Everybody should be treated equally, and that delight should just come through consistently. What I would recommend, if you're looking to do that, is to meet with your team, say, this is what we value. These are our customers here's some of the things that our customers really find important, because if you don't have a metric that actually suits the needs of your customer, your mystery shopper program may be misaligned. For example, if your business, if you think your customer values rapid transactions, or that you think that they value or one-to-one service when they actually don't, you're just basically evaluating your staff based on something that's not connected to the customer. The first step is understanding your customer, understanding what they value, what you value in an organization, teaching your staff or getting their feedback on what's important to you, and say, from this point forward, these are the 3 things that we're going to evaluate. Oh, and by the way, we're going to see how well we're doing, and it's a coaching tool. It's not a punishment tool to have a customer assessment on a mystery shopper. And if you like, I do some research. I know some companies that do mystery shopping. Don't have that in front of me, but I can share it with Carrie Lee to get back to you, or you can email me directly.
Yeah, we'll include some resources, and I saw at the beginning here too, people are asking if you can share the Starbucks graph and a few of those things.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so they can take a better look at that, because it was a little bit hard to read on the screen, and for those joining us on the phone as well, it'll give them a better visual.
Yeah, so does that answer the question for you on the mystery shopper program? Does that help a little bit? Excellent.
Perfect. So maybe going back, I'm just going to pull up the slide here if I can get my notes to go over. Back here, so
okay.
Going back to the 5 dimensions when you're creating that, thinking again of services businesses, which a lot of our clients have, what are some touch points perhaps that they could have that maybe aren't in their control, because you are looking at referrals. If you're a counselor, perhaps you're working with physicians or outreach organizations. How do you manage something that's external that you want to kind of align with your brand?
That's a really good question, and particularly for the counseling and the professional services, I think it's really sharp there, because you have an opportunity to be a thought leader. Now, a touch point doesn't necessarily mean when you can look into the whites of someone's eyes and they're right across the table from you, right? Especially with social media now and that type of thing. I think a key touch point is who you network with and who your influencers are, and the information you provide to them. And it could be a touch point for people is your LinkedIn profile. It's your Facebook page. It's, you know, the social media, any print ads you have or any advertising, because that could be the first point of contact that someone has with you for a counselor. For example, we get back to journey mapping here, and if you look at typically your customers, where do they start their decision to go and see a counselor? It may have been 3 months before they even picked up the phone, and they might have read 2 or 3 articles about you. They may have Googled you. They may have not wanted to talk to anybody, but they've looked at other resources. They may have talked to somebody who's, you know, in their community that recommends you, for example, someone in their church, or they could have talked to someone who's a trusted friend. And if that trusted friend had a touch point, they could give and say, read this article, or I know somebody that has this, without being pushy. These touch points it's a great question, because these touch points aren't necessarily when they come into the business. It's all these things external that could feed to that, right?
Yeah. And then going back to that, you know, I've recently moved to Kelowna in October. So again, finding that who's a good dentist in town, how am I going to get a new family doctor? So going back to the customer satisfaction and finding out who your promoters are in terms of the Net Promoter Score is important, because I'm asking for referrals, right? I'm not picking up, I'm not Googling a dentist or anything. My husband's also involved in the Rotary, so, you know, that's how we're doing our outreach. So it's important that you have that relationship with your customer as well, because they can be a touch point for you. Again, going on that networking, you're networking, but your customers and your clients are also networking. So it's good to always know kind of what they think about your business and if they're happy to provide referrals. And a great way to, going back to kind of the LinkedIn, is asking for the recommendations on LinkedIn, doing a testimonial outreach to some of your clients so that you can use that on your social platforms, or if you're using some print cards, anything like that. So there's lots to consider during that whole mapping of who your customer is and what those touch points are.
Absolutely, and to that point, you'll notice that a lot of the images on these slides we had, I'm not talking particular images, but it's circular, and that's purposeful, is that we want to make sure that that people understand that this isn't a linear process. So a touch point doesn't mean a touch point just in the store or at the start. As Carly mentioned, it's the referral piece after the fact. So it's after sales service as well. So if a customer comes in and you have, for example, the counselor or the retail environment, when you send an invoice, or you can email information to them, it might not be even relative to what they bought or the services they had, for example, but here's an article you might like, and the chances of them sharing that are a lot greater than saying, thank you very much, your invoice is in the mail, and it just becomes a transaction, because after you got their money, it's just as important to deal with them properly to get the next customer or the next 5. So to build on that point, touch points are iterative, and if you say, here's an article you might like, and I know it may seem like you're creating work, but it's the payoffs are huge here, and you could go into that environment where, you know, they're doing the work for you with recommending and being those influencers, because they say, wow, this person did something differently. And always think of, how can I do things differently in my industry? What's everybody not doing? And one thing we didn't really talk about here is that your competition. And a lot of emphasis in business school and that type of thing is competitive analysis. Yes, it's important to worry what your rivals are doing, absolutely. But I think the key point is, what are your customers doing, and what can you do to help those customers that your rivals aren't doing?
Okay, perfect. I'm just going back through the questions to see if we've got anything coming in. Looks like we've covered all those. I'll reach out to everyone on the phone again. If anybody wants to pipe in and ask a question, we'll open the floor. Oh, silence again.
I'm on the phone. My name is Meg Barker. I'm joining a little bit late, and I'm just enjoying the conversation and trying to get up to speed on what's been discussed. So I don't have a question right now, but I'm appreciating the discussion so far.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go back just to one slide here. speaking to, again, kind of step one in understanding who the client is. Just
Yep.
for those that are on the phone that can't see the slide, if you just want to go over again quickly the 3 steps that they're going to follow to start, kind of phase one of their experience design.
Okay, sure, absolutely. So the first stage here is when you do your initial research. Again, this comes to working with understanding your persona, short paragraph of who your customer is, just get that archetype of who the customer is, and then ask them questions. So this is almost a mini engagement with them to ask them, not just when I say customers here, it's people delivering the service too. So asking the right questions to understand, where's our business at now? Who do we want to serve? Kind of basically is who, what, when, where, why, and how, and what you want to achieve from this. So there's a lot of different things that you could do to improve your experience. Is it, for some companies it might be spending more time with the person, making the experience more memorable, getting greater share of wallet. It could be they're buying one thing at a time, but how do we get them to buy, the scarf when they buy their earrings, or how do we get someone to buy the croissant when they buy the coffee, that type of thing. And there's ways that you position the store, or you can create a better experience. The next thing is to look at the step 2 is do a blueprint or a journey map. Again, it's working with in the situation, if it's a blueprint, a specific scenario. For example, how do we want to improve the time from the manufacturer, for example, from the time that people came in to the orders are out the door, and you literally have to say, phone rings, John takes the message, passes it along to Jane, and it's very granular, but you can see how you can eliminate some steps and improve the experience in there. If it's a journey map, it's looking at your customer and being very granular in what they do from every moment to the time they come to your business, and where the opportunities to get better are. So for example, we deal with a hotel, a resort here. They brought us in, and they had an issue with early check-ins or late checkouts. It's very common.
Yeah.
And I'll have to give mad props to a hotel called the Laurel Inn and Suites in Victoria. We were we had some work to do out there, and they have a fantastic service where they send you emails and texts before you come. They let you know when your room's ready. So I think that would be a benchmark of a really good example. If you ever have a chance to stay there, you can see what I mean. But there's one that we deal with here in the Okanagan, and we find that people are coming in early. They don't read things before they come because they're on holidays, particularly in a resort. They're coming from Vancouver, getting away from the hustle bustle. They want to come in early. And then rather than have them just come in and say, well, your room's not ready, leave your bags in the trunk and go try to do something else, we determined that, okay, this is a problem that exists, or it's an opportunity. How are we going to make it better? And then it was working with local businesses in the area and providing their concierge with a list of discounts or amenities that collaborating businesses in the areas could provide. So when you come at noon, you have a variety of options. They say, your room's not ready, but we provide a change room for you. You're more than welcome to enjoy the pool. Here's a list of the amenities that you can use. We have change facilities for you, and even shower facilities after you're done the pool. And here's a list of 5 restaurants in the area that you can go and see. Yeah. So it's little things like that, right? So that's a journey. And then making it easier on checkout, because I'm sure we've all experienced this. We stayed at a hotel, and then when it's time to check out, you feel like you're persona non grata. What they do is say, checkout time is noon, but feel free to use our amenities till 7 tonight. And we provide the ability for you to shower before you drive home, because it's still light out till 10 o'clock at night in the summer, and you don't want to just go home and sit at your place in Vancouver when you could have enjoyed a Soyuz to the Okanagan and that much more. So you check out at noon, you can still enjoy our pool all day. So it's those little communication pieces and just putting yourself, again, empathy, putting yourself in the customer's shoes, right? Yeah. And managing expectations.
Well, and a lot of those too, those value adds, there's not a huge cost to the property,
yeah,
but the customer experience is that much better because you don't feel like you've got to rush out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A good point there is that value added. So you're not just going home with an invoice on your dash at 11 in the morning. You're staying all day, and you say, wow, this place was great. They let me stay. And by the way, from their perspective, when people are staying till 7 at night, they're eating in the restaurant, they're buying drinks, they're doing this and that, and so it adds to their bottom line as well. And step 3 is analyzing this information and diagnosing the key points that came out of it. And again, it's iterative. You learn you do it, you apply it, and then you just keep getting better along the way. It's not a one and done. I can't emphasize that enough, that customer experience is not one and done.
Perfect. So I just made a note here as well, just maybe to revisit quickly in this whole experience, the value proposition design and how people could get started on that.
Yes. So if you're familiar with, with Strategizer, the business model canvas, and then their value proposition design. So when you're looking at the value prop design, there's three things to look at. There's the pains that the customer is going through, and customer, again, could be your internal staff or your operation. The gains that could be had by doing things differently, and ultimately, and number one, is what's the job to be done, ideally. So if you look at tax preparation, for example, and we deal with clients that do that, ultimately, the job to be done for the customers, they just want to get this done. It's not a pleasant experience. They don't have to know all the steps and all that, but they just want to be communicated to, their experiences, or their expectations managed along the way. It's typically a Me Too industry. It's something that's, you can't control when T4s come out from the government or T3s, that type of thing. But the experience can be managed. There's significant opportunities there, and the job to be done is people know they have to do this by the 30th. And I feel for the preparers, because typically people are giving information late in the game and expecting the job to be done at the last minute. So how do they manage internally so the preparers have time to do it? That type of thing. Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay, probably looking at the time here, we have time for a couple more questions. So one's just come in. Are there any errors that people commonly make when engaging in customer experience design?
Number one is not engaging the customer in the experience or the employees in it. So if you try to do it alone, I think that was the common error that we see, or making assumptions that you think are not relevant to the customer. So I think an open mind is the best way to do this, and having empathy for the customer, or that ready, fire, aim approach is the most common problem. So if you have a strong emphasis on the customer and listening to people in your organization that are actually doing the job, because this is not a push strategy. This is something that is, and it's a de facto team building exercise. And we've seen great things with companies. We learn a lot about a lot of different industries and a lot of great people, and the pains they go through with time crunches, for example, with preparation of counseling service or taxes or anything like that. Man, these people go under the gun a lot. There's a lot of things that are beyond their control, but they're doing a fantastic job of what they're doing. It's just, how do you get it from the customer's perspective to get that job done? Yeah.
Okay, great. We're nearing the end here. We've got a few minutes left. I'll leave the Q&A open, and if anybody does want to pipe in on the phone, please do go ahead. So hopefully we've answered most of those questions. We've mentioned a few topics, and James, you've offered to share the slides with everybody as well. So just a reminder that this session has been recorded, so we will send the link out to you for that, along with some of the resources as well, links to some information. And if there's any questions that come in at the end that we haven't addressed, we'll be sure to include those along with the answers as well. So just quickly, along with the mentor advisory forums such as today, there's lots of services that we provide, as I mentioned in the beginning, to women entrepreneurs across the province. So business loans is a big one for us, and we're thrilled when we can provide a loan to a woman entrepreneur to help her achieve the growth and success in her business. If you're thinking that this might be something that you're interested in, we do have the business loans info sessions that you can call in. It's a free call just to find out more about what's required. What do you need to have ready when you come in and apply for a loan with one of our business advisors? And then we also share some success stories on the website as well about clients that we've supported and what they've gone on to do in their business. As I mentioned earlier, lots of online resources. There's a huge library in there which you can search by topic or keyword. And we also have our client services team. You can call in to our toll-free number Monday to Friday, and our client services team will help direct you if you're looking for something on a specific topic, and then answer other questions you might have about where you can find some other service providers to help you as well. On the business advisory side, we do have a business plan review service. So if you are looking to grow and get some financing, this is a key component that you do have to have ready, and it's great to have one of our business advisors take a look at that ahead of time to make sure you've got all the information in there that you need. It is actually one of the few paid services that we have. The majority of them are complimentary. And if you do have somebody, a friend, a colleague that's thinking of starting their own business, we have a great, every second Thursday, a free phone-in session to learn more about what that looks like, from registering your name, getting the domain, some of the licensing and regulations around that. So that's another free session. and of course ongoing skills and training workshops and events that we host. So the next one that we have in our June series of workshops is on Monday the 19th at 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And it's a workshop all on financial management within your business, which is going to be facilitated by Cheryl Farmer, who is one of our business advisors here in Kelowna. So if you haven't registered for that already, that is still open and on our website. And then on Wednesday, June 21st, we're going to go over social media and why that's obviously very important in your business. And we mentioned that as some of the touch points today. And again, those can be registered on our website. So James, thank you very much for joining us today and volunteering your time. And if you have anything else to add, we'll wrap this up and send a lot of resources out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And if anybody's interested in some good reading, there's an excellent book called The Experience Economy, and it's written by Pine, P-I-N-E, and Gilmore, G-I-L-M-O-R-E, and it's available on Amazon. It's a great read that explains the experience economy and why it's important for your business.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your time. It was a great experience.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we will see you back here on Monday for financial management. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.